I'm gonna upload some old footage from the Triton, the sail to Hawaii trip. I did a shot of, like a POV shot of reefing the mainsail, going from the second reef to the third reef. Currently rained out over here for days on end, and progress is very slow at the moment. I do have more refit footage from the last trip that I'm editing, but in the meantime, I thought I'd throw this up just for giggles. This is just how I do it as far as the reefing goes, and this is, you know, none of my lines run back to the cockpit, and I'm using slab reefing. I thought maybe a few of you would want to see what it looks like to reef the main alone, offshore, downwind. I don't head up into the wind to do it. One of the main reasons I'm able to do that is I had a low friction mainsail track installed that made reefing a lot easier, because the sail will go up and down even off the wind, even in strong wind. So yeah, it's not a perfect performance or clip or anything, but just figured I'd throw something up there, and I hope you enjoy it, and talk to you again soon. I'm gonna put in a third reef. This is the main sheet. I'm just gonna let that run, take pressure off the sail. I always check for a wave when I come to make this move, so that when I go to clip, I don't get surprised. Okay, so I'm gonna take the vang off. That's pulling the boom down, and it'll make it harder for us to reef. And the kind of sequence here, this is our main halyard. The sequence kind of depends if I'm shaking out a reef and going to the next one up or down. So in this case, I'm coming down. So I kind of want to maintain control of, I don't want to let this out and have the whole thing go wild. I'll leave that reefing line in while I lower the main. And this here is the kringle for the third reef. So I gotta get that low enough to get this hook on it. And what I do is then just kind of tie this off loosely, then undo the second reef point and let it go, and then take the third one in. And you want a fair lead right from the block to the winch. So I'm gonna crank this in. Sometimes you can get it pretty snug just like that by hand, but I always do a crank on the winch. Make sure it's really tight. Okay, that's good. Now I can tie that off, cleat it off here. Take the two lines that aren't being used and tidy those up, and I just kind of do a wrap around the cleat like that, then vang back on. You don't have to go crazy because the main halyard opposes that, so when we now crank up the main halyard, it'll tension up the vang. The pole is kind of in the way, so you can't do full cranks. And I'm starting to know it by feel, but I test the tension by just pushing on the left. You want it pretty firm, but I can tell when this last crank would be really hard. That's where I stop. Cleat this off, and then just clean up the rest of the halyard. So people have different ways of doing it. I do it like this. I go coil the whole thing, and then pull the line through the coil, pull a bite through, give it 2 twists, and hook that on the same cleat. And it hangs from there, and they usually don't go anywhere. Even in pretty high winds and stuff, I've very rarely had that come loose. Now we just carefully make our way back. If it's super rough, I'll keep the cockpit tether right here. It's never a bad idea, but sometimes I feel like fumbling around with that is more dangerous than just timing my my move to get back. So like here, and I'm safe. There's our 3rd reef. Now we just pull the main back in. To where we want it. That looks pretty good to me. One more. Yeah. So a quick word about those kind of thin diameter, short blue lines you see hanging from the sail. Those are called nettles. They're used to tie up the bunt, which is that kind of those loose folds at the bottom, the portion of the main that's not being used when reefed. I've just never found, I mean, I've tied them in like this. They're there to use if I need them, but I never found that I actually needed to tie up the bunt of the sail. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if it helps that my sail is not loose-footed. It's got slugs along the foot. But yeah, in any case, just throwing that out there in case you're curious. I just never tied them because it never seemed necessary. So it's a nice clean reef. You can see that kringle there, the clue for the 3rd reef is pretty tight. I've seen a little tighter, but pretty tight, and then so the foot gets kind of tight. And halyard tension looks good. The vang is doing its job, keeping the sail pretty flat. And yeah, things are starting to cook here a little bit, so it always seems to, let's see what our speed is, still 6.1 knots, so I think that I need a reef. There's frequently no speed penalty, and then the course just kind of gets cleaned up and the boat feels smoother. I try to keep everything tidy, so like the main sheet here, since we're not doing anything with it very frequently, I will just throw it in here. And then this was my bad, so this is the furling line, and I guess I pulled in some line and didn't clean up after myself, so it goes through this rope clutch. It's locked off there, then I cleat it here, and then I coil it, kind of short coil like this, and then in order to not lose it and drag it, I take like a length of it here, go under the bottom of the horn there, then over the top, and then pull it down through there. I've been doing this kind of quick release thing, but it doesn't seem as secure actually, so I'm gonna just push it through. So now like if a wave poops the cockpit, it's not gonna take this anywhere. Like tangle in the wind vane or anything like that. That's the main concern about keeping the cockpit tidy. I don't want anything tangling in the wind vane, and I don't want anything yanking these steering lines off, which is why I kind of tie them on top, because if this goes, then we lose steering and at the wrong time. That could be really bad. This is the boom preventer that goes forward through that block and up to the end of the boom. This is the lazy jib sheet. This is the working jib sheet. This is the after guy for the pull. This could be cleaner, but that's fine. I'm not too particular about those. And this is my cockpit tether. So at night, anytime I'm in the cockpit, I'm wearing this. And in the day, if it's super rough, I'll do it, or if I'm doing something, usually if I'm furling and I'm working both sides and I'll use it. But yeah, it's a little bit of the ins and outs of running this boat.